so I'm in designs because I need to find my template for my postcard. So I am going to hit create design. And then you do have a few options. So since this one, just think of it as something like social is obviously things you're posting on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, things like that. Print are things that actually, obviously get printed. So postcards would fall into that category. Usually these two have kind of the same designs. What changes is the size and what they're formatted for. So social are going to be things that are sized to, fit Facebook posts, Instagram posts. Print is going to be things like, flyers, door knockers, business cards, things like that. So I'm going to choose print. If you're doing like a just listed or a just sold, you can import photos and text from a listing. That just prompts you to choose a listing from the MLS. I'm not going to do that today, so I'm going to leave it blank and I'm going to hit continue. And then this is kind of the hard part. So choosing your template. It's good to kind of have an idea of what you're trying to, do a mail campaign on before you get to this point. These are all, it defaults to my app. So I could change, I recommend choosing standard postcards over large, but I could choose standard postcards and that's going to make it a little bit easier for me to look at. So if you're, advertising your app, there's a ton of options to choose from here. You also have listings. So in there you have things like for sale, just sold, local expert, neighborhood snaps, just listed. Obviously today's market isn't really the best one for using these just listed postcards, but when, if things ever decide to slow down again, you can always come into just listed, go to standard postcards, and then maybe you're trying to just highlight one of your new listings. But probably if you're doing one on a listing, it's usually going to be the just sold, and you're probably going to highlight how often or how quickly it was sold. You have buyers. Really, there's not really many postcard options for buyers. You do have color mortgage. Actually, those are just flyers. You have the neighborhood snaps, but this does kind of require a little bit of work on your part because you would basically choose a neighborhood and then you need to kind of do the work of, okay, well, how many active listings are there? How many listings have been sold in the past however many days? So it is a little bit more work, but they are still worth it. There's still options if you want to go that route. One of the easiest options that I like to default to when I'm teaching this, I go to lead generation and I go to home value. And I just want standard postcards, so I'm going to narrow it down. And then I have two. Basically, you'll find out what your home is worth and what is your home worth. I think these are two really good options, especially if you're a newer agent. You don't have a listing to highlight, you don't have it just sold, you don't want to go the route of the neighborhood snaps because you're not that familiar with the neighborhoods, but you do want to try and maybe catch a listing. So these home value ones are great options. I'm going to go just with this first one to find out what your home is worth. I think this is the one that I like to use. Let me just make sure. Yeah, we'll go with this one. So you have two pages of a postcard. You have the front and the back. You can choose pages and you can flip between the two. On the first page, we don't really have anything to change on this one. I could, if I wanted to, get rid of this KW and I could go to logos and maybe add in our logo. So that's something you can do. That's actually text. So if I didn't like that, I can just highlight it and I can just delete it out. If I decide I want to bring this over, you definitely have to find a colorway that works with it. Really none of the ones I bring in, but if you go to KW Connect, they have every single colorway possible. It's like that. It really just depends on the design. So that might not look the best. So I'm just going to undo it and get back to just the generic KW. And since there's not really anything to update on this front page, I'm going to switch to the back because there's things I can change in there. So this is not me. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start there and kind of work my way down. So I'm going to click on that image and I'm going to go to my images that I have saved. And I'm just going to replace that picture with my headshot. And if I don't like how it looks, I can reposition it. I can move it, up and down. It just kind of depends on what your picture looks like. Some of them, you're kind of stuck with kind of where they format. I do kind of have some wiggle room, but that cuts off half my face, and then that's just really awkward. So I'm going to stick it right in the middle and hit done. So your name, any of these little text options, all you need to do is click on them. I find the easiest way is to have it selected and then choose the typewriter function right here. Because once I do that, it opens up this field, and it's not formatted, but it'll automatically format. And I just type in my information and I hit save changes. My name's a little bit longer than just the default your name, so I can take this and drag it out. Pretty much if you've used anything like Publisher, Canva, this might come pretty naturally to you. It's really just learning the software and kind of learning where things are. If you're on a team, you can click that. We'll say that I'm not, so I'm just going to hit delete and get it out of there. And now that kind of leaves this a little bit odd, so I'm going to drag that white line up, and I'm probably going to end up dragging all of these up as well. So it's really just kind of finagling with the design that you choose, but it's pretty easy to work with. The phone number with the text, you can double click in here. I just think the best option is to use this typewriter, but it's totally up to you, whatever works best for you. And I'm just going to put in the office number. And then so save changes, that puts everything there. Same thing, I do kind of have to format it a little bit. But you could add in anything you wanted to. If you wanted to do your license number, the office address, you can do that here. I wouldn't really recommend the office address because it is going to be on the return stamp, but kind of keep that in mind. Download my app. So if you don't know where your app URL is, let me pop back into command. And I'm going to go into the consumer applet. And then under site, this is your website. So if you got to this point right here and you didn't know your agent site, you should all have an agent site here. Site and app settings, under URLs will give you your unique app URL. So I could just copy this from here, come back over into my design. I have that highlighted. So use my typewriter and just paste that in. What I don't really like about doing this, obviously nobody who gets this postcard is going to type that in and go to the URL. You can do outside things such as like QR codes. Really this one would be pretty easy if I just go to just any random QR code generator and just choose a free one. I know Eric Johnson is one of our agents and he is really good at QR codes. I know there's one that he pays for. I'm not sure what it is off the top of my head. I usually just pick a free one. This one I've actually used before. It's pretty easy. So you would just type in your actual URL, kind of give it a minute, and then it's going to give you a QR code. So whenever they were, whenever they get this postcard, if they just scan it with their phone, it'll automatically take them to your download link. And as long as you're using this URL, as long as they download the app and create an account for the first time, it will be branded to you. So that's kind of an easier way. A lot of people are more likely to scan a QR code than to go to Google and type this in. So I would just download this as a JPEG. It's going to ask for a free sign up, but this one, it actually still is being generated. So while it's kind of trying to make me sign up, I don't have to. I just have to wait for this to generate. And then there that is. So I would do add. I would just drag this in and pop up there in a second. So I could completely get rid of this, move the download my app, and add that in. That's huge. Obviously I would resize it, but you might want to say something, like scan to download my app. And then if I That takes, like 5 additional seconds. This one, QR code generator.com. I think it's really easy to use. If I scan this on my phone, it will pop up my app download. And this way they know what they're supposed to do with it. And it's a little bit more user friendly. So I definitely recommend that if you are really trying to get people to download your app. It's good because then they pop up as leads in your contacts and you can see what they're doing in your app. So you can see what houses they're looking at, any safe searches, things like that. KWDBA name, we of course want to replace with KW-Fayetteville. So I'm going to just replace. And then I don't want to get rid of the each office is independently owned and operated. Anything required for compliance, you want to leave there. What I like about this one, it already has some text in, so you don't, if you're not creative and you're not the best at coming up with kind of advertising, you can just leave this here. So stay informed of the true value of your home. You can, of course, click on this, same thing, typewriter. If you don't like any of this text, please feel free to change it. Make this unique to you, but if you are feeling, not very creative and you just can't think of anything, it's there for you to kind of just leave. The thing with the postcards, you don't want to add anything in the white space because that is where the return address, the going to address, all of the USPS, their little scans and stuff, and then like the postage mark. So you don't want to add anything in here because it's going to get covered up. So going back to page 1. Okay. So to actually download this to where it is usable in command, I'm going to rename this just value 1015, not 10, that would be a very long October. So this is kind of the important part about how you download it because uploading it into the campaigns is a little bit annoying. It's a little bit picky, we'll say. So you always want to download. You want to do a PDF for printing. You want to do, I don't think PDF standard or PDF for printing really matter, but I'm going to go with PDF standard. No, it does matter. I'm sorry. PDF for printing, because you want to check include bleed. The default should be 0.125, and that's what you want. And then you just want to make sure that it is only downloading 1 page at a time. So right now we're downloading page 1. So I'm going to hit download. And it's going to prepare my file. I have to wait a minute before I can download again. So you can see it's preparing. This is kind of like Google Docs. Everything does save automatically. You do have a file save option if you want. I always recommend doing that just so, just in case things happen, unfortunately. You can see, okay, download complete. So now I have my front page. I'm gonna then download, same thing, PDF for printing, include bleed. But I'm just going to download page 2.
Shelby, how did you get the Williams-Fayetteville? Because it's not in my assets.
So I always have to look up how I did this. There is a way to add things to your assets, and that's how I got all of the logos and like.
So it's not, I shouldn't expect to just automatically see it somewhere there. I have to go.
Let me look at
there's your assets.
I always forget where it is, and I always have. It's really easy if you just look it up. It'll tell you exactly how to do it. Assets. So when you're on the home page of designs, if you go to assets, you can upload color palettes, have things like your headshot. And then in logos, if you want the logos to always appear, you would just upload.
Okay, so I gotta go to upload in the right and then find it.
And then what I did to get all of the colorways, I went to KW Connect. Under resources, you have marketing. And then logos and branding.
Okay.
So all you would need to do here is type in either 485 or Fayetteville. If you preview, it's just going to give you the basic one, but if you download, it's going to give you a huge zip file of basically every colorway possible.
Okay.
So that's why I don't even know what tab I'm on. I have all of these different ones. So kind of what I'm missing is an all white one. So I could go in, download this, and then save the all white one to my computer, upload it into my assets. And that way I'm covered if I ever have like a dark background.
Okay.
Okay, so now I have my front PDF and then my back PDF. So we're done in designs. So I'm going to go into the campaigns applet. So this is where campaigns applet is kind of known for Facebook ads, but this is where you can also do the direct mail campaigns. So I am going to create campaign. And then this one is going to be direct mail. My campaign name is just going to be, I'm going to call it just free CMA. You can call it whatever you want. And then your goal, this really doesn't matter that much unless you use advertised listing, then it is going to be looking for an MLS address. So this one, if we're doing home value, you can assume that I'm kind of trying to do this to attract listings. So I'm going to choose that one because it's kind of closest. And I am going to create campaign. So they've definitely changed this a lot. You can kind of do your own text. You can upload your own images. They're very picky with resolution. So I find that if I do pull things in from the MLS, the pictures are never good enough quality. So if you're wanting to do like a just listed or a just sold, I would recommend, you probably have the direct files from the photographer somewhere. I would use those instead of pulling them in from the MLS. But you do have select template. I'm going to upload design because I just made those in command. So you can do a front and you can do a back. So I'm going to drag this one. Okay. So what I found, and I should have thought about this before, and let me open this one up. For some reason, it's like not all postcards are created equally in designs. So this one, when I drag it in, it says it must be less than 5 megabytes. So I'm not sure the exact size of this one. If you really want to use a certain one, you kind of just have to go to an outside source and resize it. So that's kind of what I was trying to avoid while showing this, because that can get really confusing. I just do it in things like Paint, and then, you're still able to use these. But there are certain, like this, what's your home worth instead of the other. I'm just going to download it really quickly because I know that this one actually works. It's the correct size already. You don't have to go out and, resize it. Only downside with this one, I didn't, edit this one. It would kind of be the same format. This one also, this one doesn't have a headshot, so you could add it in wherever you want it. And then this one has just some different text. Okay, it's still down. Okay, and drag that front in. And then kind of a weird thing with certain computers, I think it's a Google Chrome thing. When I download this as a PDF, it saves all of this. I'm going to record it to support and see why that's happening, but I tried it yesterday in like Microsoft Edge and it was working fine. So I don't entirely know what's up with that. I'm going to keep going. I thought it was my computer earlier, but apparently it's just Google Chrome. I'll get my second page. Okay, so you have to drag in the front and the back separately. And yours should not look like this. It should just be exactly what the postcard is. I have no idea why it does that. Hopefully I can figure something out with that today. But if you have anything else on your computer, I think Firefox is okay. Safari might actually be okay in this case. Microsoft Edge works. definitely try and use that just to, you can create your design in Chrome. I definitely just download it and upload it from different software. But I'm going to save. We're just going to go on. So Market Center, there's our address. I'm going to add in our suite number. And then so you want to put in our Market Center address here because that's going to be the return address. It's going to make you verify. It's never going to like what you put in. So there's not. Oh. Okay, I'm going to confirm. Next is targeting. So you do have to have an address to where your targeting stems from. It's really not that important unless you are wanting to send this to like one certain neighborhood. So if that's the case, definitely put in an address. I'm just going to put in the office address because I will show you why that does not matter. And then you also have the target my database option. So if you want to send these directly to anybody, you can pull in from your contacts. You obviously just need to have an address for them. But I'm going to do local targeting because that's kind of, if you're wanting to get new leads, local targeting is the option for you. So I'm going to save. And then budget. So it's going to default to 200 quantity. It'll give you an estimate. So whatever your budget is, work with this. You can do, 50. You can do, I actually don't know the maximum amount you can do. I don't know that there necessarily is one because, you paid for them. But say my budget is, we'll say $100. You can bump this up until you get close. You are paying for basically just the stamp, so $64. The next one is going to give you an option to send a copy to the Market Center. So that isn't factored in with this quantity. So if your top budget is $100, that one would set you over that. So you might want to bump it down another one just to factor in the extra one if you want one sent to the Market Center. So we'll mark it down to $99.20. That way, when it sends me my kind of test copy, I'm not breaking that budget. I'm going to save. Then next is configure your targeting. So it's going to ask, yes, we actually want to create this campaign. And then these are through real mailers, so let's talk to them. And then this is why this address really does not matter. So right now it is doing 155 homes closest to this address. But none of my filters are on. If I said that I want to do houses that have more than 3 bedrooms that were built in 1980 and above, you can see that my blue, which is this shows where my postcards are actually going to be sent. It's spreading out some, and I can click on all of these. Okay, 310 Stonebrook Place. I can see their exact address. I can see last sold in 2020 for however much it was sold. I can also do year last sold. So if I want to bump this down to 2005, it's going to keep spreading out. Last sold for, let's go. And it can get to a point where it runs out of houses and it's going to knock this number of homes to target. So I think I'm about to do that just because I bumped the price up so much.
Hey Shelby, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So the $100 for the budget was to print the cards, and then the $64 was for the stamps?
No, it's the price that it showed for like this is what I would actually pay.
Okay.
You're basically just paying 64 cents per postcard.
64 cents. Okay.
Yes.
So what, when you say my budget is $100, like what is that actually for?
What you're willing to spend, your budget for this campaign.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
So now that I've raised that up so much, I only have 64 homes in the area that match my search. So I would definitely want to, bump that down a little bit. So that gives me 155. You can see where all I'm showing. So this is still pretty close together. We're kind of still in the same little area. So I could try maybe bumping up the square footage. Oh, that gives me 14 homes. Just kind of play with this. Think about who all you want to target. If you're just targeting a neighborhood or a certain area, you don't have to mess with this at all. You would just want to start with, if this was a neighborhood and I was doing like a just sold, and I'm trying to show that to people who live in that neighborhood, I could pretty much just stop here. I'd have a number of homes to target and I could go on to next. But I'm going to leave it there. You can also do single family, multifamily, whatever. There's probably not many multifamily options, so kind of just keep that in mind. And this is what I mean, the send copy to company address. When I check that, it adds on an additional 64 cents or whatever the postage amount is. This one is a standard 6x4 postcard. There is an option for a bigger one, and that one costs a little bit more. So once you have your targeting figured, you can see all of your blue dots for who is going to get a postcard from you. You can highlight over them, see kind of some information. If I decide I don't want 401 Overton, I can remove that and it'll just populate another one for me. So I'm going to go next. It's going to generate my preview. Mine's going to look a little bit weird just because of the Chrome issue. But down here, you can see your order summary. So you can see, oh, it doesn't look weird. Oh, that's good. But you can see what it actually looks at. Like, this is why you don't want to put anything in that big white space, because you have our return address, the postage, and then the address that it's going to. So don't add anything there because it's going to get covered up and then it might not be able to get mailed. Your order summary, you can see I'm getting 156 postcards for 64 cents each, putting me at $99.84. That includes the postage. So postage is 64 cents. This would be my order total. So they get distributed by USPS. If you submit your order before 3 p.m. on a business day, they'll go to production the same day. And it's just whatever the nearest fulfillment center is to the targeted area. It says they're estimated to arrive in the mailboxes in 4 to 6 business days. So once it's submitted, you'll be provided a more accurate estimate. We know the post office is having quite a few issues right now. So if you need to get these out, like urgently, I wouldn't wait last minute to send these. Definitely account for more time if this is kind of time sensitive. Like if you're doing Christmas cards, which is an option in designs, definitely get these out sooner than later. In here, you put your email, your card number, expiration date, security code. You pay for this yourself. It doesn't get billed to the account or anything like that. Pretty much everything you pay for in command is from your own card. And then once you put that in, you hit make a payment, and then it goes off and they go into production, and then they get dispersed throughout the mail once they're ready to go. Does anybody have any questions? It definitely takes some work, kind of choosing a design that works. I would maybe, before you spend all of the time, editing it, just download it as a PDF and go and throw it in the little template and see if it'll take that size before. There are more than just this one that works. I don't know why some of them work and some of them don't, honestly. It's just the size of this. And it makes no sense to me. I need to bring that up. But maybe it's a reason that I just don't know about. All right, well, if nobody on Zoom has a question, I'm going to turn it off.